Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining the stream. Welcome, Basil, Sean, Keisha, I'm Fierce, Hunter, Bill. Thank you guys so much for joining the stream. As always, let us know what stocks you're watching today. Tom and I will cover them. But overall, the SPY, or I don't even want to say the SPY, I want to say tech stocks had an amazing week. But so far in pre-market, it's looking a little rough. You know what I mean? Like, especially the SPY, we've seen a good amount of selling pressure overall, and it's kind of slowing down stocks that had a ton of momentum yesterday, like Apple, like Tesla, and I know Nvidia is still technically up, but like it's just like kind of being held back, like in pre-market due to like the negative selling pressure, you can say, with the SPY and value stocks overall. So definitely be on the lookout for that. Overall, we're just seeing like mixed momentum heading into the market today. But yeah, let us know what stocks you're watching. We have Basil talking about CCIV. How's that one doing, Tom?
Yeah, I mean, definitely not looking good. It looks like it is kind of starting to sell off a little bit. It's down below all the SMAs and a lot of the technicals, but it is only down below like the levels of yesterday. It's still kind of at that support around 23.20, which it hit a few times like on Wednesday.
All right. I don't think it's bad for like maybe like a couple month hold. Like, like yeah, it is selling off a little bit, you could say today, but I think it has a lot of potential and I think that it's definitely in the right sector, you know what I mean? Cuz there are some stocks that, I know the chart doesn't look the best on CCIV, but they are in like an absolutely booming sector, electric vehicles. So, I do like them and they definitely are risky, but I think that they do have a good amount of potential. Then we have Whitney saying AMD want to buy a long call option like 6 months to a year out. What option do you think would be good, please? So let me check it out real quick. Let's see. If we go to AMD, let me find some good options for you, Tom. I'll let you like analyze the chart.
Yeah, intraday today, there's definitely good support around $84. And AMD definitely has a lot of volatile options to choose from. But whenever you're looking at like AMD, my main thing is like it really popped like 6 to 10%, or it's like 6 to 7%, I should say, yesterday when it had a pretty great day, to the upside. I'm wondering how much that can continue this week. I know they had that great deal with Google, and I hope that they could keep going up, especially with that great news that they had. But if the overall market keeps tanking off the way it is, AMD might have some problems, kind of like it's having this morning, going back up. But I think it will be great for like 6 months to a year out, like she's looking for. And man, I don't know, maybe somewhere around maybe like an 80 strike or like an 85 strike. What are you seeing?
So the thing is like when you want to go 6 months to a year out on AMD, like their IV isn't crazy, but it's still relatively high. So these options are pretty expensive, is the thing. So I was looking at the 80 strike calls for January 21st of 2022. They cost around $1,200, so they are a little bit expensive. But even if we go out to like the 85 strike, we're only talking about maybe like $150 difference. You know what I mean? For like a $5 difference in like strike price. So it honestly, if you could do like a debit spread, that would be best. Like maybe if you could like buy the 80 strike call for January 21st and then maybe sell the, I don't know, like the 140 strike call or something crazy like that. I think that might be pretty solid and it'll definitely reduce some of the cost.
Yeah, and I'm definitely with you though. I'm bullish on AMD as well. I think it could be pretty choppy though on the way up, so just keep that in mind. I don't think we're just going to shoot straight up to like $100 or anything like that, but it will be slow and steady. But I think that AMD will do pretty well, especially over like the next year to few years. Honestly, I think it's even a good like 5 year hold. And I know there's some people in the Discord who have been holding it for like the past few years also.
For sure. And then let's see. We have Matthew saying Amazon. Amazon had a great past couple weeks, and it's still holding its ground. I really wouldn't be surprised if we do see a pullback, though.
Yeah, I wouldn't either. There's like a double top right here, right around 35.54, 35.55. I think that Amazon looks great. It looks like it's going to try to come back up and maybe retest those all-time highs. Eventually, we're going to have to see how that can move. Today, it actually started coming back a little bit to the upside, even though the overall market, really tanked off today. And man, I think Amazon honestly looks pretty good, possibly to the upside. We'll have to see how it keeps moving, but it definitely has that solid resistance there around 35.50.
All right, and then we have Russ asking about AMC. I know a lot of people want to hear about this one, Tom. There's a lot of hype going into it. AMC is up today, which is great to see. It's holding its ground. That's my favorite thing about it right now is, the buyers have not just backed down. You know what I mean? Like they're still like they're not going down without a fight. You know what I mean? So, Tom, do you have any levels for us? Any resistance? Anything you noticed?
Yeah, I mean, there's some big resistance actually that we bounced off of this morning, right around $63. You could say like 63.20. And man, it definitely bounced off of it this morning and went straight down off of that. And it bounced off of it yesterday. So look out for that today for it to keep going up. But I love how it held that $60 support. I feel like we've talked about the 60 support for like the past, 3 to 4 weeks in a row, like 3 weeks to a month. And man, it's just been like really hitting off of that level. And we can see like over the past few days, it's hit off of it quite a few times. And today in pre-market, it held that ground, like you said. And I think that with it holding $60, we'll still see a pretty good move later on today, even though it's going red right now. Definitely look out because it was right around that resistance. So just keep that in mind. Also, the resistance is all the way up there around like 63.20, like I said.
Sounds great. And then let's see. Then we have Jorge saying KO, but I know it's not looking too good, Jorge. A lot of value stocks are just selling off so much over the past week. It's actually brutal. KO, you can even look at Cat. That one's been getting smacked over the past week, and it's looking a little rough. If you like them for the long term, now would actually be a pretty good time to sell puts. Like if you look at CAT stock, like you can go decently far out of the money, and you can get a pretty decent return. Like it's not gonna like be a crazy amount because selling puts, that's just not how it works. But it is a value stock, and you can get some pretty good returns by selling out of the money puts right now. Then we have, let's see, Russ also talking about NIO. That one is, it's down a little bit today, but I think it has a lot of potential, especially for the long term, and I like the way it's moving overall.
Yeah, actually, I can't believe it had that like big momentum at open and then lost it really quickly. But yeah, I think it could do pretty well today also. And especially over like the next couple of weeks, I really like it. It might not do, very good today per se, especially like with the SPY falling down the way it was. But I think that for the next couple of weeks, it could start to really break out and possibly come up and retest like the $50 resistance.
Sounds great. And then, Tom, you got to check out my stock, Zoom, ZM. Even though the market's a little choppy, Zoom is holding its ground and it's actually uptrending. I know I've been talking about this stock way too much, actually.
Yeah, I mean, well, rightfully so, right? Whenever you have a good play, it's a good play, but it's looking really nice. And man, you're right. It is really rocketing up today, despite the overall market going down. And I think that just shows you the strength that some of these growth stocks have, especially whenever you look at ones like Zoom and, like let's go look at the SPY and it's just selling off like there's no tomorrow. And you go look at like QQQ, even the QQQ is not looking good today. So yeah, it's just awesome to see ZM still continuing that uptrend, even though the overall market is getting hammered. And, and even out of the growth stocks, Zoom is even like outperforming a lot of them today. Like we have Palantir kind of just going flat at open. And there's just a lot of those other ones like Peloton, for example, that are just very slightly up today. So I like how Zoom's actually moving. That's actually a really good sign.
Yeah, I think it's awesome, especially with the way the market overall is doing. I think it shows a lot of strength, like you said. But then we have Philip saying, you guys are talking so slow. I'm used to the 1.5 speed on your daily videos. Guys, let us know if you think we talk slow or fast or whatever. Feedback always helps, but let us know. And then we have Keisha talking about Netflix, NFLX. So
yeah,
this one,
NFLX.
Yeah, I mean, it's doing pretty decent. It's holding its ground. And Tom, I know we talked about this one, I want to say in the videos, I don't know, over the past couple days, but it's in its range between 480 and 560 right now. And it's, with it being at support and tech doing pretty well, I think it looks pretty good.
Yeah, it does actually look very decent. And man, I actually really like this setup. I think if it could start to break out of this middle area of the range, possibly like up above like 510 or like 506, I think we could start to see a pretty big move out of it. And I really like it consolidating on support. I think that's a really good sign for the short term and the longer term, honestly. And I'm with you, Mike. I just think it looks like a great setup. And if we could pass above the highs of the past couple of days around 503.50, I think we'll start to see a pretty good move up to 506 and then 510, like I said.
For sure. And then we have Sean saying Nvidia. Remember we were talking about it hitting 750? I do remember that. And I was like, I was like the one a little hesitant. And then I believe you and Tom yesterday were like, no, it has a good chance. And, it explodes up. So, that's awesome to see. And like I'm surprised, but I'm you know what I mean? Like you can kind of expect it because Nvidia is a powerhouse, but either way, that's awesome to see Nvidia just exploding. And Tom, it's breaking its all-time high, right?
Yeah, it is. It's actually breaking that all-time high today as we speak, right at $760, moving up above that. The previous all-time high of yesterday was right around 753. So we're honestly moving up very nicely today, and it's going straight up, and that's a very good sign. This stock has a lot of strength, kind of like Zoom does right now, and I think it's just one of those really big powerhouses, especially pre-split. There's a lot of good stuff with Nvidia. And yeah, I like how you brought up yesterday because that was hilarious. Even though I said I thought it could get to 750 or even 800 over the next like week or two, I was not expecting it to yesterday by any means. So that was just a huge move yesterday from 710 all the way up to like 753 at the highs. I mean, that was honestly pretty crazy move, but these stocks, as they go into splits, they normally move pretty well like this. So it's not totally like unexpected, but that was definitely a big runner yesterday.
Sounds great. And then we have Jorge saying Pins is breaking out. How's Pinterest doing, Tom?
Yeah, starting to really move to the upside, looking decent. It's actually filling that gap on the daily chart, getting up there pretty nicely. I actually like this one, and I think that it could start to maybe go up to that resistance somewhere around like 78 to $79. And whenever we look at this intraday today, looks like it is starting to really run up, and it looks pretty nice, honestly. But it does look a little overextended for the beginning of the day today, but I think it could definitely continue, especially like when you look at the open yesterday, how it just exploded up, pretty much all morning. But it's just, it's strange because the overall market is going down, but some of these growth stocks just don't care.
Yep, for sure. And then we have Bill saying DOCU and Zoom. So let's check it out. DOCU is having a really good day, up around 4%. Bounced just awesome off of that 200 support, and now it's getting really close to that like 275 resistance. I think it has, well, I know it has a lot of momentum, but I can see it slowing down sometime soon. It is getting pretty close to that resistance, and the volume is dying out just a little bit.
Yeah, it is starting to get a little bit slower than it was earlier on in the morning. And whenever we look at the 1 minute, there is kind of getting a little bit of chop there. So just be a little wary of that, like Mike said. And the 1 year daily looks actually really, really good. And there is like an upper resistance around like 275. So I think that, as we start to move up, look out for that. We're getting pretty close. We're at like 270 right now. And on the daily, DocuSign has just pretty much exploded straight to the upside over the past couple of weeks.
Awesome. And then we have Justin saying AMC is breaking 64. Uh-oh, here we go. Let's see. Yeah, Tom. It is breaking. It has a lot of momentum. Volume's coming in. You know what I mean? Like we have a lot of eyes on it right now.
Yeah, and I really like the setup off the SMAs, off the supports, up to the 65 resistance. I just think that it looks like a pretty solid setup overall, and it's moving like as I'm speaking. Definitely look for it to move out above 64.71, which is that high. But whenever we look at this stock, hopefully we can see the momentum because it's kind of, over the past couple of days, it likes to shoot up at open and then get really choppy throughout the day. And hopefully we can start to see a solid breakout today, and we'll start to finally see it move up towards $70 because I've been just waiting for it to kind of pop up. It's been hovering right around 60. And I was hoping that whenever it popped above that, like yesterday and a couple of days ago, it would start to fly up, but it just kind of went flat. So hopefully we can see that big kind of breakout type of momentum today.
All right. So guys, thank you so much for joining the stream and asking great questions. It would really help out Tom and I if you guys could hit that like button. It only takes a couple seconds. and it really helps us out, and we would really appreciate it. So please do that. But then we have Zach saying Palantir is having similar momentum as NIO. And NIO is popping this morning, but Palantir is too. Like, it's breaking its high of day. It's up just under 2% today, Tom. I think it looks pretty good.
Yeah, Palantir is looking very nice also. And on that daily level, it's finally starting to break out above those SMAs and up out of those resistances like we've been seeing with a bunch of the other stocks. And Palantir was lagging behind a little bit, behind like the other ones like Zoom and a couple of others. But I'm really liking how it started to break out of that level today. And like you said, it is starting to look like a pretty nice play, especially with that breakout. And I just, we've seen a bunch of these stocks starting to break out of their resistances, out of their SMAs and stuff like that. And Palantir was just consolidating right there. So seemed like a pretty decent setup.
All right. And then we have Click saying good entry point for long-term holdings on Intel. So let me check it out real quick. They do have a pretty solid support at 54. I think that is a decent place to like start, averaging in that, like just start. And if it continues to fall, the next major support I see isn't until like 50. Do you see anything else, Tom?
Yeah, and one thing to keep in mind with Intel is in the past, sometimes it likes to have two big swings to the downside and then it starts to move back up. Like you can see, for example, on this downtrend here, it had an initial swing to the downside with a big gap down, and then, it consolidated for like a few months to like 6 months, and then had another huge gap down. And I would not be surprised if this continued to fall. So like Mike said, I would only start to average in right around these levels, maybe, $55, $54, somewhere right around that support seems like a very good level to start averaging in. Like if you have 10 grand, I'd probably start out with like 2,500 or like 3,000 at this level. And then if we continue to fall, I would just average in little by little and try to, make my average price somewhere around $50 or less is kind of what I would shoot for. But definitely, it's definitely going to be a long-term play. So you're going to want to have some time on Intel. If you get it, there's going to be a lot of up and down movement until it does finally break out. But I think that over the next few years, it will start to move very nicely. It's just how long is it going to stay between this range for? And in the past, it's traded up and down quite a bit, kind of like this. So just keep that in mind that it might stay between this range for like another year or two before we start to see a big breakout. And I think it's better to go for this one in like a longer term sense. And I think ones like, for example, like AMD or NVIDIA, those are the ones that might do a little bit better like over the next year. But Intel is definitely still a great stock.
All right, and then we have Keisha saying Shop is still moving. Could have turned $400 into 15 grand, but sold early. Sometimes that happens, but Keisha, I know you were really on this play. You've been talking about this one way before it exploded up, like it is now. But awesome job overall, and no one's ever going to catch the top, but great job with Shopify, and it's looking pretty solid. Then we have Joel saying DraftKings is recovering / holding after the short report. Still holding the 30 call leaps for April 2022. Yeah, it is holding its ground, and I'm glad it is. I still like them for the long term, and yeah, I still like them, and I'm glad that they're holding their ground. Philip is saying Fubo is breaking the small bull flag. What do you think?
Yeah, Fubo's looking really nice, starting to break out. I think that it needs to break up above like $30.50 before we start to see a huge breakout. I think we've hit that level 1, 2, 3, like 4 times over the past like week or two, and we went down off of that. So I would make it break out above 30.50, but I'm with you. It definitely looks like it's going to try to do that. And it looks like on the daily chart, I should say, I bit my tongue there. Actually, it kind of hurt, but yeah, that hurt a little bit, but wow. But yeah, definitely make it break out above $30.50 before, you play it. But it's almost like a play like Palantir or like Zoom before it started breaking out. It looks like it's just consolidating here for like the past couple of weeks, but it looks like a lot of those growth stocks, I was just sitting right at those resistances, just waiting to break out.
Alrighty, and then let's see. We have Tesla flying. Whitney said Tesla is flying. I don't know if you saw that, Tom, but it actually is. Like it's popping up pretty well, and I'm glad. It's been doing nothing for the past couple months, and I'm just glad to see it finally popping back up. And I think the big question is, Do we think Tesla is gonna, retest like 800, 850 in this bounce back up? And I think we're way too early to tell because we're literally in the beginning stages, and the market has very mixed momentum right now. But I think there's definitely potential.
Yeah, I'm starting to honestly really like this Tesla setup here. The more and more I look at it, it's starting to look decent. Whenever it was selling off a few weeks ago, it definitely was not looking good. And the chart could easily turn around and move to the downside again, which would be a little bit scary. But I think it'll take a pretty big crash for that to happen. And I think that honestly, it's starting to look pretty hot. And if we start to see like a lot of green candles over the next few days, I think that this kind of like bearish trend that we've been in will kind of get broken, and maybe Tesla will start to move back to the upside. Because I mean, man, it has been down for quite a while now, and I think that a lot of these investors will start to hop back in, especially like whenever their new truck starts coming out and everything like that. Once they kind of regain that hype that they lost from like AMC and a lot of these other stocks, I think that they'll go back up. It's just the question is when, and I think it's still at a decent level right now to still grab shares. Honestly, the lows down here around like 550, so you're not too far off. You're about like 70 points away, which on a stock like Tesla, that's not too much actually.
All right, and then we have Jorge saying AT&T is on the support right now. All right, let's check it out. I know AT&T got hammered,
Oof.
with their dividend. Yeah, what they do, like cut their dividend, Tom, like a
Yeah, I
couple.
think they just cut it. I'm not sure if they got rid of it completely, but there was definitely news where they either cut it or they got rid of it. But I think that they just cut it because it was
Yeah,
honestly getting pretty high, wasn't it? Somewhere around like 7 to 9% or something.
yeah, it was pretty high, and yeah, I'm like 99% sure they cut it. It was so I know it was only like a month ago, but so much has gone on in the market, I kind of forgot to be honest. But yeah, AT&T, they are breaking below support. One thing to keep in mind is the lower they go, the higher the dividend yield will be. So if you like AT&T, the company, like it can actually be a good thing it's falling. Like if you're looking to buy shares into it, yeah, like I said, like the lower it goes, the higher the yield because it costs you less to get into the investment, but at the same time, or at least theoretically, the dividends will like the amount will be constant. So I want to bring that up, and then we have Basil asking about Wish and then Clove. So let's check it out. Wish is holding its ground. I think it looks pretty decent for a dip buy.
Yeah, it does actually. I think it looks like it might try to come back up. We'll have to see how it can go, but yeah, Wish doesn't look terrible. And it did have some short squeeze potential whenever it was kind of going up. I know the short float on it used to be pretty high, and I think that it could have a shot, but we'll just have to see how it moves off the $11 support.
Alrighty, so it looks like we are seeing some selling pressure. I'm looking at stocks like Zoom. It's pulling back a little bit. Palantir's pulling back. The SPY is actually testing its low of day right now. We have the QQQ with a pretty strong candle to the downside. Apple, yeah, red candle. Lots of selling pressure just came in. Not a good sign. QQQ is about to break its low of day right now. SPY just broke its low of day. Ivy is popping. If we go to the VIX, that's not, like it's looking good, but that's not good because that means the market's about to tank. So yeah, I don't know. We're seeing a shift of momentum right now. And then Clove, CLOV, Tom. CLOV it was looking really good, but it looks like this selling pressure that just came in is dragging it down a little bit. But I kind of feel the same way. I feel like it looks pretty decent for a dip buy.
Yeah, I think so too. And it's kind of like right around that like 1250 to 13 support. And it doesn't look terrible, like you said. And I kind of think it looks like it might try to like come back up and maybe retest like this big resistance up here, maybe around like 1750.
Alrighty, let's see. Then with the next comment, we have trade saying AMC volume cranking on upwards move. Then we have Sam saying me again. Square still going. Can hit $240 today. I bought at $199 as a swing, wondering when I should sell or keep. So I like Square for the long term. I think you can't go wrong with holding them, but you have a really, really solid return right now, and it never hurts to lock in profits. And it has momentum. So I think the best way to go is no one can sell at the top, but I think it would be a really smart idea to maybe sell like a third of your position, or just like a portion of it, because you'll lock in profits while at the same time you'll still have a good amount of your shares left.
Yeah, especially while the market's tanking down like this, you never know. Like that could definitely pull back these stocks like Square. So I think that's pretty smart, Mike.
All right. And then let's see. We have Russ saying AMD is taking off. Yeah, it was looking pretty good. It just this negative momentum came out of nowhere on this with the market. So yeah, it just came out of nowhere. It's not looking too good. Like I'm looking at like all the stocks on my watch list, and it pretty much affected every single one of them, even the powerhouse Nvidia. Like I know that the SPY struggled a little bit this morning, and Nvidia was still like a powerhouse and it was able to hold its ground, but it's definitely pulling back a little bit right now. So just be on the lookout, guys. Be careful. Then we have Muscle saying Nvidia again. I can't contain myself watching shipping stocks such as Ship. Thanks, guys. So yeah, Muscle, I know you've been talking about this one for forever, and I'm really glad to see it exploding up for you. Are you gonna like lock in profits, or is this like a long-term hold for you? Let us know. Then Jay is saying thoughts on SWBI, Smith and Wesson. So Tom, what do you think of this one? It looks like they just reported earnings.
Yeah, I think that they're going to do pretty well, actually. And obviously, their earnings are doing very well. With the pandemic that went on, they got a lot of revenue coming in from that. And generally, whenever there's a Democrat in office as the president, of course, that generally sends some of these gun manufacturers up in price, especially with their stock, because a lot of people get worried about new laws coming out and they run to the stores and they start buying up all the guns that they can, before any new laws come out or anything. So just keep that in mind. That's probably why they're having such a great, end of 2020, and then such a great like 2021. And I think it could definitely continue, going up. There's a lot of momentum here. And I think that those good earnings just go to show like how much profits are really like being generated by some of these gun manufacturers right now, especially with everybody like flocking to buy them.
All right, and then we have I'm Fear saying taking a chance on Boeing calls for the August 20th expiration, the 250 strike. Thoughts on Boeing long term? So I'm a pretty big fan of Boeing. Looking at the 250 calls for August 20th. Let's see, 250 calls for August 20th. They are a little bit out of the money, but you have time, which is good. I like the setup overall, but a problem I see is you look at some of these value stocks like CAT, like KO, and a lot of other ones actually. Just look at the DIA, Tom. It's been selling off a good amount, and Boeing kind of fits like in like the value stock category, and they have been struggling. So I like it for the long term, but just like for like the short to like medium term, it definitely is struggling a little bit, and just like the other stocks like it are definitely struggling.
Yeah, and you might be able to get some better prices. So like if you wanted shares of Boeing or something, I think that maybe selling puts would be the best way. I know he talked about the 250 calls. Obviously, getting more time is always better. It is kind of along like the 100 SMA, so I think that it could have a chance to pop up. But obviously, like with the SPY, if the SPY and the overall market, like the Dow, if they start like really flying down, then I think it's just going to drag Boeing down with it, and we'll just have to see how it can kind of hold. There's a huge support at $220. So if we could start to hold that over the next couple of weeks, I think that it'll be perfectly fine, but we'll just have to see how it ends up holding, because Boeing's pretty volatile, like over the past couple of years. I mean, it's definitely went up a lot and down a lot. Is like whenever it fell from COVID, that was honestly pretty bad, but on the recovery, it recovered back up to 230 and then fell back down to like 150 before flying back up again. So just keep in mind, it has lots of up and down movement. And I wouldn't be surprised if we were able to grab it at like 220 or like 200 a share in a few months.
All right, so with Boeing and like cash secured puts, I know like a lot of times when we sell puts, like we go pretty far out of the money. So like, we might sell, let's say like the 215 strike and get $40. But if you're relatively bullish on Boeing and, you wouldn't mind holding shares, you can go in the money or at the money. So like you can go to like the July 16th expiration and you can sell the 235 put and you can get paid $700 cash right now. You know what I mean? And let's say like you're really bullish on Boeing, you can sell, let's say the August 20th, let's say you went in the money like the 260 strike put and you'll get paid around $2,800 cash today, but then again, it's in the money. But yeah, you know what I mean? I just want to bring that up to just give you options to show you that there's so many different ways to go about trading the options market. Like if you have like basically any type of stance, you can quote unquote bet on it. But yeah, that's that. Then we have Sean saying really liking Roku for a quick day trade. All right, ROKU. It looks really good actually. It looks really solid. It's breaking out. Volumes flowing in. Do you have any thoughts on this one?
Yeah, Roku, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's honestly been looking really good the past few days. I know that we've been covering it just about every episode, and it looks really nice here. Pretty big moves to the upside. If it could start to break out above like 368.60, which was like, it was just that top that it hit a couple days ago, right before that huge move it had to the downside. I think that we'll see even more movement, but heading up into today, possibly, we're sitting around 363 to 364 right now. I think that there's a pretty big resistance up here around 365. So be a little wary of that, but overall looking very nice.
Sounds good. And then let's see. We have Piper saying, everyone hit the like button. There we go. Thank you guys so much for all the likes. It really helped us out, and we really appreciate it. And then let's see what else we have. We have Muscle saying, long on NVIDIA, but adjusting the trailing stop loss almost daily. Same with AMD. I didn't sell a few months ago when most left the NASDAQ. So, yeah, I mean, I think it's good to have the trailing stops in there, especially when, NVIDIA is straight up exploding. I love them for the long term, but I do think that they are a little bit overextended.
Yeah, I think that they're getting to that point, and at some point here, it will start to pull back and come down. So just keep that in mind. It might be at $800. It might be at $1,000. I have no idea, but we are still far away from the split, which makes me think that there could still be some upwards movement. But keep in mind that we're so far away that this stock could probably pull back to 700 and then fly back up to 800 and have no problem by then. It's definitely a big mover, and whenever it gets the hype in there like this, it has a lot of hype to it. So just keep in mind, I think that there will be more up and down movement to come. I don't think that we'll just continue to see this type of straight up action that we've been seeing, but hopefully we do for your sake, because it seems like a pretty good setup. And whenever these stocks go into these splits, I know that they love to run, but it might like go down for a couple weeks and then run for a couple more weeks into the split. I don't know, but just a thought to keep in your mind.
Tom, are you watching AMC?
No, I'm not. Let's go check it out. AMC. Wow, it's actually breaking out, trying to get back up to that $65 level, Mike. And wow, it's really kind of holding its ground here this morning, and looking pretty bullish, actually. Like, hopefully we can see a nice breakout. I mean, I was hoping we'd hit $70 today, and we're still quite a ways from that. So hopefully we can see some more movement.
Alrighty. So I think it's awesome to see how it's making higher highs, like especially on like I'm looking at the 5-day, 5-minute chart, but it's making higher highs, which is awesome. It shows that the buyers are in control, and that's exactly what a lot of people want to see with this one. So good stuff there. And then Tom, Baba's looking pretty good today. Like I know that the market is, yeah, I mean it's holding its ground, I should say. Like I know the market is kind of like selling off, but I think it's good to see Baba holding its ground. And Baba's one of those stocks where it has that running potential. I'm not saying it's exploding right now, but it just has that potential. And at the same time, it's not really correlated to the market. You know what I mean? Like the market can do it just kind of does whatever it wants, Baba. So either way, I think it looks pretty good, and I'm definitely eyeing it out.
Yeah, me too. It's definitely a pretty solid stock here, moving down here around the support. I really liked it off that 210 level down there at the bottom, and seems like there is some resistance here around like 212.50. We'll have to keep an eye on that, but it seems like a pretty solid setup, like you said.
Alrighty, and then I'm trying to see what else is moving. Let us know what stocks you're watching. We have Airbnb popping up. Here we go. That's a pretty good sign. Airbnb is looking pretty good, actually. I like the setup. And Tom, is today going to be the day where it finally breaks above resistance? What do you think?
Man, I hope so. It's just been sitting here for like the past few days, and it kind of double topped up there around like 153.74. It better be the day that we break out, because I know people have definitely been waiting for it. And man, on the 1 year daily, it has such a solid setup that you would think that it would have already done it by now, but it's just definitely having some problems getting through there. And I think we're going to have to see a lot of momentum today to see it break up through that. But it looks like we have it, and we're definitely going to try to do it over the next few minutes, it looks like.
Yeah, I think there's a good chance we break out. The next resistance I'm seeing is like 153.75. So definitely keep your eyes on it. I think it looks pretty good. Then what else we have moving? CRWD. Let's check it out. CRWD is also looking pretty good. It's up around 1.5%. On the daily, it looks pretty good. They are getting pretty close to resistance, right around 250 though.
Yeah, I love the breakout above that 240 resistance from yesterday. And yeah, I love how this one's moving. Like you said, it's getting a little closer to that 250 level, but man, it definitely is a big runner. And on the 1 year daily, it's recovered up so nicely that I mean, it's just, it's almost back up to all-time highs now. So very nice recovery.
Yep, and then let's see. We have Sean saying SPY taking a beating. Is that because of quad witching? I keep hearing that term. So, great question. And honestly, people love to hype up quad witching and make it seem like, there's going to be some crazy event that happens on these days, but they happen multiple times throughout the year. And literally, the only thing that happens with quad witching is increased volume. It's just when the options and the futures expire. So like literally, yes, there's going to be a lot of volume coming in because these giant institutions have to roll their positions, and sometimes there can be increased volatility, but that's not even guaranteed. Like it's only sometimes. So honestly, in my eyes, it's not really affecting the market at all. Like it can, but it really doesn't. It's just institutions rolling their options, and nowadays the market is liquid enough where it's not going to be a crazy effect. But then with the next comment, we have Zach saying the cruise lines have been getting crushed the past week. Yes, they have been. Like you look at CCL, it's been getting smacked. So have airlines, like AAL, UAL, the Jets ETF. They've been getting smacked. Tom, like I don't know. It's not a good sign.
Yeah, it's not good for the short term. I mean, who knows how low these things could keep going? Like whenever we look at like CCL, it really fell below that $30 support and started to really fall off. And, hopefully it can hold. There's a pretty good resistance here, somewhere around like $27. I hope we can hold that, because if not, we might come down to like that 25 support, and then maybe below that, maybe even the 20 support. And honestly, I hope it happens, because then I'll be able to scoop up shares even lower or sell better cash secured puts. But yeah, I mean, I think it's going to create a good opportunity for the longer term, though, if it keeps going down. So, guys, just keep that in your mind. Like these airlines that, like, if you thought they were going to do pretty well and start to fly up, to 50 or 60 a share over the next like couple of years, it's going to be a good time to buy it whenever they start to fall like this. So just keep that in mind that, whenever they go down, it might create a decent opportunity. And especially like, I know Boeing's not an airline, but it has been moving kind of like this. And Boeing's one of those big ones that we talked about earlier that's really in the back of my mind to possibly grab some shares while it's low.
All right. And we have Dennis saying Tesla giving it up. Let's see. Tesla, yeah, it was trying to run, but it's pulling back a little bit. I mean, at least it's still technically green. Airbnb is running, which is good. But yeah, it's hard for these stocks to run up like with momentum when we have the SPY just added slow of day, and just like the SPY is so weak. You know what I mean? Like we're seeing some tech stocks pop up like Apple, Tesla, Zoom, you can say, but at the same time we have like a lot of the other like value stocks starting to sell off a good amount.
Yeah, we do actually. And it's not a good sign to see. And, we're still seeing like the Dow and the SPY down, like you said. And man, it's not good for the overall market. Like imagine how, we saw a lot of these stocks running today. Imagine how much they could have ran, if the market was green. Like we might have seen a pretty crazy breakout with a lot of these stocks. I think that this market going red definitely hurt some things, but at least some of these stocks are still holding their ground, kind of like we're seeing like with like Zoom and Palantir and a couple of those others. They're still looking pretty decent, which I'm happy to see. But I'm like really upset that like all these all the value stocks and all the safer stocks are starting to fall off, like KO, and all the banks are getting killed still too. I mean, we're seeing Bank of America down again today, JP Morgan down another 2%. Like how much lower can these banks start to go?
Right? Yeah, it's not looking good at all. Then we have, let's see, Muscle saying HODL AMC, playing with the house money on AMC and supporting the movement. Thanks for the analysis, Mike and Tom. Smash the like button. So let's go. How's AMC doing? It's pulling back a little bit, but overall it's still up a good amount on the day. Then we have Corbin saying, I'm watching Apple like a hawk. I may or may not be going crazy. That's how I feel with Zoom, Like I just watch it like all the time and at least like Corbin, at least you're doing that with like a nice high quality stock unlike, some like crappy penny stock or whatever. But I think it looks pretty good and it's not bad, but it's not like amazing right now and the only reason I say that is because the market's just like kind of holding it back. Like I think Apple's setup has a ton of potential to continue up, but when we have the market kind of selling off, like it just kind of like it kind of just like I don't know, like it's like working against Apple.
Yeah, it is. And it's going to really die that momentum down. Like on days, we'll see all that big buying volume or positive volume come flowing into the market. And right now, we're seeing a lot of negative volume come in. Obviously, there's still people buying up Apple, but, with the SPY and QQQ down, that really like worries a lot of people, especially with that inflation news that came out and everything like that. So just keep in mind that, Apple could, continue going down, but I think that maybe the SPY will start to hold its ground down here. And I think if that happens, then we might see some of the tech stocks and see Apple start to fly up. But I don't think that the market coming back a little bit is going to be able to help some of the banks or some of those other stocks like the airlines that are still getting killed. Like it's just an unfortunate, couple of weeks for them, especially with that inflation news and Powell talking and everything. There was just a lot of volume that or a lot of moves that were expected to happen, and they happened, but not the way people kind of expected.
All right, so we have Airbnb at their high of day right now, which is awesome. We have Baba breaking to the upside, which is also awesome. We have the SPY kind of holding support, which is good. It's better than just tanking below it, but it's still right on the day. But yeah, so lots of mixed movement this morning. Dennis saying, I am seeing if Twitter will flush down. Twitter, TWTR, it is not doing anything. It's kind of falling. I don't know, Tom. What do you think about it? Like, I think it just looks a little bit weak.
Yeah, I mean, it's just flat. I would say if it can continue to hold like around where it is, I think it'll be fine. We're seeing a lot of stocks kind of get weak today, which is a little unfortunate. We're seeing a lot of the bigger tech stocks anyways, not looking too hot, and they just failed to break out. They started to break out above $60 and just very slightly ran up to like 61 and then came right back down. But honestly, on the daily level, it's holding these trend lines and the supports very nicely, even though it's been very flat. I don't think that that's necessarily bad movement for it, especially like with the market tanking down the way it is. But Twitter's definitely going red today, and it's not looking good. Like you said, it is looking weak today. But on the 1 year daily, I think if it comes down to like $58 or like $57 and it's able to hold those levels, I think it'll be all right, but it just depends if it can hold there or not. And, this is why getting time is some of the better ways to go, especially with stocks like Twitter.
All right, and then we have Hunter saying CVAC. So this stock got absolutely smacked the other day. It had a huge gap down, and they're coming back up pretty well. Hunter, were you thinking about selling puts on this one, or have you? Because I was thinking about it, I didn't, and IV is popping, but I think it's good that it's starting to come back up. Tom, do you see any like resistance levels on it, or like anything you're seeing? I know that it has like a couple. I don't know, what would you call those? Like simple moving average resistance lines ahead.
Yeah, there is some SMAs coming up, and it seems like that they're pretty close to that resistance around 76. So I would say just look at like the $76 resistance. Maybe you could look at like the 80 resistance too, but 76 was hit a little bit before that. So definitely look out for that. So 76 and then 80 on the way back up. But besides that, it's kind of hard to tell with the way it gapped down, but definitely look at like 76 and then 80. If you want to look at something after that, maybe 93 seems like another solid level, but definitely I think 80 is going to be the biggest one.
Sounds good. And I'm just trying to see what's moving. Like I know we had a good amount of momentum from like certain stocks this morning, but looks like SWBI is really trending to the upside. Another one, DOCU, looks like that has a lot of momentum. Yeah, so DOCU, SWBI, BABA, QCOM to the downside though. I mean, it's barely down though. It's only down like 0.8%. Let's see. Yeah, so let us know what stocks you're watching, guys, in the chat. Tom, do you have any specific setups you're looking at? I know you mentioned AMD a couple times. What are you thinking?
Yeah, AMD is definitely one of the ones I'm looking at. Once you brought up Qualcomm, I was like definitely gonna go check out AMD again. But yeah, definitely looking at it. I think if it could break that high of this morning around 85.77, it could be a pretty good move. And I honestly like the setup it has today. It's looking pretty decent. Over the past like 2 minutes, it's kind of posting lower highs and pulling back, which isn't the best sign. But I think later on it could start to break out. It just is going to depend on like the overall market movement. But AMD had a pretty good deal with Google yesterday. So hopefully they can kind of continue this ascent to the upside because it's been very nice and it's finally been breaking out on the daily. And I've really been looking at like AMD and some of those other semiconductors like Intel, but it seems like AMD is definitely going to be one of the best ones.
Sounds good. And then give me 1 second. Let's see. We have Hunter saying bank stocks. Yeah, they've been getting smacked too. JP Morgan. Wow. Yeah, it's looking horrible. Bank of America, Goldman Sachs. Like it looks pretty bad actually. Hunter, I know we talked about it a lot yesterday, but yeah, it looks pretty bad. Like I'm thinking about selling puts on them, but I don't really want to. Like they're just bleeding. I think I'm gonna wait a little bit.
Yeah, and guys, let us know in the comments what you think about the bank stocks. Like, why do you think they're going down? Is it interest rates not getting changed? Is it inflation? Like what do you guys think the main issue is here? Because it's definitely kind of crazy, and there's a lot of catalysts going on right now. We have the dollar kind of going up. Getting stronger. Gold is selling off. Commodities are selling off. The housing market is getting a little strange. Mortgage rates rose a little bit yesterday, so there's definitely like a little bit of a lot of news actually going on like with the banks, and let us know like what you think about them because I'm definitely interested to read some of those comments. And some of you guys who work in the banking industry, if I know you might not be able to give away too much information, but definitely let us know as much as you can because it would definitely help us out. And these banks going down, it's pretty surprising to see this steep of a sell-off. If I was expecting anything, I would have expected like a slow and steady move to the downside, not a really drastic drop like we're seeing.
Interesting. So yeah, I mean they're just really, really selling off. They're definitely on my radar, like JP Morgan and Goldman Sachs especially. But Tom, remember how you were talking about how Jamie Dimon, the CEO of JP Morgan, they're holding $500 billion in cash because they think that inflation is going to rise and they're just going to look to deploy that money somewhere else. So I don't know. I think we're seeing like a lot of interesting things just happening right now, and it's just we're in a very interesting situation. So I don't want to touch bank stocks just yet, but they're definitely on my watch list. Then we have Sean saying, do you guys think the SPY could go back to 420 levels next week or see more falling? Let's see. He said 420. Yeah, I think it's definitely possible. But I think it's way too early to say anything. We're way too early in the day. The market has only been open for like 50 minutes now, and there's so many variables where I'm not even gonna like give a prediction because it wouldn't even be like accurate. But yeah. So Tom, do you have any thoughts or anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, it is kind of bouncing off this support from a few days ago on, let's see, that would have been June 3rd right there. So like right around June 3rd, it kind of hit off this like 416.25 support level. And then it kind of hit that again just now and it's kind of consolidating. I would have to say that I think it might come up and touch 420 and then go back down because 420 is a huge resistance level now that we fell below that support. And I think that's definitely going to be a big level over the next few weeks to few days whenever we touch that. I personally don't see us getting back through this. I think we might start to see a little bit of a pullback in the market. We definitely had a big fake out this week. Powell talked, the market went down, went up. ended up flying up and then flying way back down to the downside. So we definitely had a bad, fake out above all-time highs up to 426. And it seemed like we were just sitting and trying to break out above 425 for like 3 or 4 days. Finally got the breakout and then just ripped straight down. So I honestly don't know. Like Mike said, there's no way to predict this type of movement. For all we know, we could wake up on Monday morning and the SPY is at 422. I honestly would not be surprised with the way we've been seeing things moving lately. So it's definitely going to be volatile. And I think that the banks are definitely not helping the situation at all. And if we see those continue to sell off, I think that the overall market might keep selling off also.
All right, and then we have A saying buyers still holding workhorse. The short float is still high. Yeah, it definitely is. It's definitely holding its ground, which is good. And then he is still holding FAZ, which is basically the short bank ETF. So that's awesome. That thing is popping. Then we have Dennis saying Twitter puts. Yeah, it doesn't look bad. I mean, it's not my favorite setup right now, but I definitely don't think it's bad. And IV's rising too, so it's definitely not a bad setup on Twitter. What's like the next support on this one?
I think I see a pretty big one here, right around, well, $60, but it looks like we are breaking that right now. I see another one right around 59. Yeah, $59 has been a good one over the past few days upon analysis, and I think that might be a good level today. But honestly, if we start to see downwards movement, I think it could break that to the downside. I think we'll just have to see what ends up happening with it, but it's definitely going to be a very volatile.
Sounds good. And then Rad saying, you guys hear any of the CLNE news with Amazon and the CLNE CEO? So I have not. Honestly, I haven't really been following this one too much. Have you heard anything about this?
No, I haven't actually, but I know CLNE has been on fire lately, and it looks like it's starting to go up even today, up 8%. So honestly, really good moves. I know people were loving it a few weeks ago whenever it was running up to like $15 and then $14 the next day, but hopefully it can do that again here soon because there is getting a lot of momentum and there's a double top up here right around like 1250 where it hit today and kind of consolidated at. So hopefully we can see a good move, but I think we might, it's looking pretty strong, especially for CLNE. And I know a lot of people have been watching this and just waiting for it to go up. And it's been kind of like one of those hype stocks, kind of like AMC or GME, and everybody seems like they're just flowing into it.
Alrighty, then Jorge said FVRR showing strength these last couple days. I've actually been looking to invest in this one to the for the long term. FVRR. It's definitely on my watch list. And then UPWK. It's also a potential stock for me. And then A said the main issue is available credit on credit cards. Not many holding large balances on credit cards. I actually heard that, and obviously that would affect bank stocks. So good input there. And then Vicky also said banks went up on the expectation of higher interest rates sooner rather than later. They clearly didn't. Pay attention to what Powell was and continues to say. Good stuff there. And then Jorge said CHPT is also trying to break out from this resistance at 33. CHPT, yeah, it is. It's definitely trying. I think it's trending up pretty well. And even if we look at like BLNK, it's a similar setup. Do you have any thoughts on this one, Tom? CHPT?
Yeah, I mean, I like both of them, CHPT and VLNK, both for the longer term. I think CHPT looks slightly stronger short term. I will say BLNK is sitting right on a resistance, kind of like we're seeing a lot of the growth stocks doing lately. And hopefully it can start to break out above that. CHPT, let's go look at that one. They're looking a little stronger, actually breaking out pretty nicely. I think that out of both of them, I like CHPT setup a lot better. CHPT reminds me a lot more of like Zoom or one of those ones that are really outperforming. And definitely the chart shows that. But I really like it. I like how it quadruple bottom down here, 4 bounces at the $20 support before it went up. So pretty solid setup here. And I think that they could both continue up. But with the SPY the way it is and with the way some of these growth stocks are coming back down, we might see some pullbacks on them. So just be a little careful over the next couple of weeks. But I think that in the longer run, these stocks will be fantastic, especially being in the EV sector and charging batteries. It's such a big sector that's just due to keep growing.
Alrighty. And then let's see. Keisha saying, "What's going on with Walmart?" And a lot of it's just these value stocks selling off, in my opinion. You look at basically like all the value stocks right now. Just look at the Dow, DIA, and it's just kind of bleeding this week. And it's just really having impact on other value stocks. So that's what I'm seeing. Tom, I don't know if you have any other input or like levels or anything.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of what I'm seeing too, and kind of like what Vicky said, like with the banks and everything like that. I think that's really hurting some of these stocks as well. And you could almost throw banks like into those value stock categories, but it seems like Walmart was just doing very well this year. Recovering up pretty nicely from February and coming up nice, and then now it's just tanking off, not looking good. And on the daily chart, the setup honestly doesn't look the best. It kind of looks pretty bearish, and I could see it keep going down, but it's definitely not a good sign to see these stocks moving this way. And I think that like with the banks, the interest rates and everything like that, that's really hurting just hurting the overall market. And I think it's just making all these stocks pull back, which is unfortunate, but I think it'll create better opportunities for the longer run. But in the short term, I would say just keep eyeing up growth stocks and stuff like that, big tech stocks that are always going to move, it seems like, no matter what the market does.
Sounds good. And then let's see. Sean goes, banks are capital heavy, having poor interest rates and poor loan demand make it hard to make money. Interesting. And then let's see. Then we have Roberto saying MU, thoughts on MU. MU is tanking. I think it's decent for selling puts on it right now. Their next support's at 75, and if they break below that, 70 is another pretty big level.
Yeah, I would sell puts, and I'll tell you what, I'm going to start throwing MU on my radar. I love how it's starting to fall down like this. And I know I shouldn't love it going down, but it just creates more opportunities in the market. I think that it looks pretty bearish here, especially on the daily chart. It moved below that SMA and just not looking good below resistance either. I would say there's a decent support though coming up around like 76 to $75 that we might hold. So look out for that type of level. I think that would be a good time to maybe start averaging into shares, or time to sell some puts there. I think if you could go somewhere down to like the $70 support on like selling some puts, I think that would be the best way to go. Somewhere around $70, I think, is going to be the best support to look at for the long run.
Sounds great. And then Sean said, "Well, I came out green today, so I'm happy and heading out. Thanks for another amazing stream, Mike and Tom." There we go. And I think that it's very smart to, make your money and then just stop trading for the day. Awesome job, Sean. Then we have Jay saying, "What's going on with Roblox?" So, Tom, I know that I know we've been watching this one for a while, and it is tanking pretty hard, actually. It's right at that $80 support. Like, I don't even want to sell puts on this one, to be honest, and I don't even want to touch it. I don't want to buy it. I don't want to short it. What are you thinking about it?
Yeah, I mean, I think it looks pretty bad personally. I don't want to say it looks terrible though, because it has had some good movement. It is right along that support, kind of around $80 as well. So it might start to move up, but personally, it's not my favorite stock. Even whenever it was on the way up to 100, it just wasn't for me. I just think that there's a lot better stocks out there, like Palantir, DraftKings, Peloton, Zoom. All those I think will be a little bit better. And whenever I look at Roblox, I would just treat it more of like a hype stock. It seems like when it gets some hype, it kind of likes to run. But personally, I wouldn't touch it. It's just not the stock for me. I just don't, it's just not my favorite thing fundamentally. I don't like that they're, like a video game and all that stuff. I know that it's a really good stock and it's been going up very nicely and they make a lot of money from the game. So I'm not discounting it at all, but it's just not for me.
Alrighty, well, Tom, do you have any last minute stocks or anything for the rest of the day?
Man, I'm so upset to see the SPY continuing to sell off, not looking good. I think I'm going to be watching to see if like JP Morgan can kind of hold these supports around 148 to 146. I mean, it's not looking good. I wonder how much this sell off could continue to the downside, because man, I mean, they are just getting killed. Like ever since Monday of this week, like let's find out, since open of this week to right now, JP Morgan is down about 7.4, 7.5%. So that's definitely not a good sign for banks. And man, it seems like they're just going to keep selling off. So definitely looking at that. definitely watching the overall market like the SPY. I'm just going to be honest, the intraday setups look terrible to the downside. I think that we could see continued sell-offs here. It does look like it's pretty like oversold intraday, but sometimes when the SPY starts to really rip down, sometimes we see pretty big moves at the downside. And keep in mind that whenever we see moves like this, they generally happen pretty quick. Like look in the past, it generally has a couple like quick large red days. And I think that that might be like kind of like at the levels we're at now. So we'll just have to see what ends up happening. But overall, I think it just is not looking like a good setup for the overall market. And it's just having too much problems breaking out of this like 420 to 425 resistance. And I think we're just due to kind of fall down now.
Sounds good. Well, thank you guys so much for joining the stream. We really appreciate you guys joining and asking great questions. And we hope you guys have an amazing rest of the trading day, but also a great week.